Mike Rowe built his reputation on honesty, hard work, and showing the world the jobs most people never think about. He became a voice for workers who rarely get recognition, and he carried their stories with pride. But even someone as open as Mike can hide things he never intends to reveal. People always assumed Mike was the kind of man who shared everything about his life. His humor, his transparency, and his comfort in speaking made him seem like he had no secrets. But the truth is that everyone hides something, even the people who appear the most confident. For years, Mike carried a private part of his life behind closed doors, tucked inside a simple room that no camera ever entered. His bathroom, which seemed like an ordinary space, held something that connected him deeply to the person he used to be and the person he was trying to become. This hidden item wasn't expensive, flashy, or dangerous. It wasn't something shocking because of its appearance but because of its meaning. It represented a story he rarely talked about, a story that shaped him long before he became a public figure. Those who know Mike well noticed that he avoided discussing certain parts of his past. He could make jokes about his life all day, but when a conversation moved toward emotional subjects, he changed the topic quickly. People assumed he was protecting his privacy, but it was more complicated than that. The truth he kept in his bathroom was linked to a time in his life where he learned lessons that almost broke him. It reminded him of days filled with uncertainty, responsibility, and pressure that he didn't know how to handle. It was something he held onto not because he needed it, but because it represented everything he had survived. Mike often talked about the dignity of hard work and the importance of appreciating people who rarely get praise. But he rarely talked about the struggles he went through before he found his path. Behind his confidence was a man who had to fight his way through setbacks that he never made public. As he became more successful, he tried to distance himself from the emotional weight of his past. He used humor as a shield, wisdom as a distraction, and storytelling as a safe place. But there were moments when the past felt close again, especially when he looked at that one item he kept hidden. His bathroom became a quiet space where he could face memories he didn't want the world to see. It was where he allowed himself to feel emotions he avoided everywhere else. He could walk away from cameras, audiences, and expectations, but he couldn't walk away from the truth inside that room. People often assume that public figures have their lives figured out. They think success erases fear, doubt, or pain. But success only makes people hide those feelings better. Mike never pretended to be perfect, but he also never invited the world into the most vulnerable parts of his life. The item in his bathroom held a story he wasn't ready to tell. It reminded him of someone he cared about deeply, someone who shaped his understanding of responsibility. It was connected to a moment when he learned how fragile life can be and how easily everything can change. He kept it hidden for years because he wasn't sure how people would react. He worried that the story behind it was too personal, too emotional, or too heavy for the image people had of him. He wanted to protect the memory, not expose it to the world. Every time he looked at it, he felt a mix of gratitude and sadness. Gratitude for the lesson it taught him, and sadness because of the pain attached to it. He placed it in the bathroom because it was the one place he visited every day without the pressure of being Mike Rowe, the TV host. In normal moments, the item seemed small and simple. But to Mike, it carried the weight of years he kept tucked away. It reminded him of hours he spent helping someone he loved, nights he stayed awake worrying, and mornings when he felt unsure of the future. He often said that life teaches you through unexpected experiences. But he rarely explained how deeply he understood that sentence. His bathroom secret was the reason he knew it. It taught him that strength isn't always loud, and bravery isn't always visible. The people close to him had no idea what he kept hidden. They knew him as honest, straightforward, and open-hearted. They never imagined he had a private emotional anchor inside a room no one entered. He kept it hidden because revealing it meant revealing a part of himself he had kept protected for years. Sometimes, he thought about removing it, but every time he tried, he stopped. It didn't feel right to let go of something that represented so much of his journey. It reminded him of a chapter in his life that shaped his values and helped him understand the world on a deeper level. He once joked that bathrooms reveal more about a person than any interview. For him, that was true in ways people didn't know. His bathroom wasn't just a place of routine, it was a place of reflection. It was the only room where he allowed himself to connect with his past without filters. The secret he kept there was tied to someone he admired, someone who taught him resilience long before he ever spoke about resilience publicly. It was something he quietly checked every morning, as if making sure he never forgot where he came from. For years, the object stayed hidden, untouched by anyone except him. It was the silent keeper of memories, emotions, and lessons that shaped the man behind the public personality. No one expected that Mike Rowe, known for his straightforward nature, carried such a private emotional reminder. The discovery shocked people because it revealed a side of him that he never showed. It showed vulnerability, heartbreak, and honesty in a way the public rarely sees. And while the item itself was simple, its meaning was far from simple. It represented a story he had protected for years, a story that shaped his values, his work ethic, and his deep respect for ordinary people doing extraordinary jobs. And finally, a few minutes ago, the world got a glimpse into the truth he had kept hidden for so long. When people learned what Mike Rowe had kept hidden in his bathroom, they weren't shocked by the object itself. They were shocked by the story behind it. It wasn't fancy, expensive, or unusual. It was emotional, meaningful, and deeply personal in a way no one expected from a man known for humor and strength. The item was connected to his father, a man who shaped Mike's entire understanding of work, responsibility, and humility. Mike rarely talked about his father's struggles because the memories were too heavy. But this item reminded him of everything they went through together. It was tied to the days when his father's health began to decline, and Mike became more involved in caring for him. It reminded him of morning routines that were filled with worry, evenings spent helping with simple tasks, and nights where he stayed awake thinking about how life was changing faster than he could accept. The bathroom became a place where he could face those memories without breaking down in front of others. He kept the item on a small shelf, hidden behind everyday objects, protected from anyone's curious eyes. It wasn't meant to be seen, it was meant to be remembered. People were speechless because they expected Mike Rowe to be the man who always knew how to handle things. But this discovery showed his vulnerability in the most human way possible. It revealed a man who struggled quietly, who loved deeply, and who held on to memories that shaped his heart. The item also represented how Mike learned the value of simple moments. He spent years traveling, working, and showing the world the dignity of hard labor. But the lesson that meant the most to him came from personal caregiving, something he rarely shared publicly. He spoke about how caring for someone you love changes you forever. It teaches you patience, strength, and empathy in ways no job ever could. He learned to see the world differently, to appreciate small victories, and to understand how fragile life truly is. The bathroom item reminded him of a promise he made, to never forget the man who taught him everything about character. It reminded him to stay grounded, humble, and honest, no matter how successful he became. It was his emotional anchor during the hardest chapters of his life. People were speechless because the story behind it was not a joke, not a stunt, and not a publicity trick. It was raw and real. It showed a side of Mike that people rarely get to see, a man who is strong not because he hides his emotions, but because he carries them with love. The discovery also reminded people that every public figure has private struggles. No matter how confident they appear, they face moments that test their courage. Mike carried his pain with dignity, but seeing what he kept hidden made people realize that his strength came from deeper places than they imagined.